destigmatize neurodivergency, starting with autism. With that being said, welcome to RAW-tism, a podcast about my autistic experience and opinions on the world. On this podcast, I will be raw and unfiltered. Whether you listen to enjoy, hate listen, or just leave it playing on mute to support me, I appreciate the effort you put into my little program. Thank you! You're always welcome to disagree with me as long as you do so respectfully and with no name-calling. I love you all! If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider rating and reviewing RAW-tism to help others find me. Ensure you're following RAW-tism on your preferred podcast streaming service so you never miss an episode. We post a new episode every Monday, but you never know when we'll throw in a special treat during the week. This week's topic for discussion is whether everyone is a little autistic. Is everyone a little autistic? No. If everyone was, there would be a better support system in place for accommodations. Neurotypicals already have the support necessary to succeed because they are seen as normal. If everyone was a little autistic, then that would be considered the norm. While I'm strictly against spreading misconceptions that everyone is a little autistic, I do believe that accommodation should be available for anyone struggling, regardless of diagnosis. The idea that everyone is on the spectrum, and sometimes worse off than others, is a bit misconstrued. The truth is that everyone has functioning capacities, but those with autism are more victim to burnout and dangerously push themselves past their limits. I found a post on r/autism where user flat out spewin' asked the subreddit a related question. The PDF version of the original post, which is no longer available on Reddit, so there's no link, can be found with the transcript for free on my Patreon. Link in the description below. The post asks, what's your response when someone says, everyone's a little bit autistic? This is the response that bothers me the most whenever I reveal that I'm autistic. I never know how to reply. It feels dismissive, and I feel like it diminishes the difference between us and NT, which is short for neurotypicals. I've picked my favorite responses to this post, which will be listed throughout. So, everyone is a little bit pregnant, as we all experience back pain or headaches or nausea, which are pregnancy symptoms. Ever since before I was diagnosed, I've seen this response everywhere, especially in memes. It's a great analogy because people understand that you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. It's the same with autism. Autism spectrum disorder is how your brain is wired. There's no such thing as being a little autistic, just like there's no such thing as being a little bit pregnant. You are or you're not. There is some leeway at the beginning of pregnancy when people may say they are a little bit pregnant. Or an autistic person may joke about only being a little autistic on days that they are higher functioning. Still, these are just phrases, not realities. Don't use them if they don't apply to you. The next comment is, a close friend of mine said this to me the other day. The phrase I use to explain is, everyone pees a few times a day, but if you're peeing 90 times a day, that's when it's a problem. I think it very well explains that neurotypical people can stim, for example, but people with autism stim much more and more often than neurotypical people, as well as the fact that we need a stim to help us in stressful situations, etc. After I said this to my friend, she completely understood. Often, the reason people think this is due to misinformation or preconceived ideas about autism. Often, once you educate the person, they understand. This commenter is absolutely correct about misinformation and preconceptions about autism. This is a part of why I am starting my advocacy journey now. Education is something I am deadly passionate about. And I don't think that the American education system is fully preparing our children for the world that we live in. This is nothing against teachers. I wholeheartedly believe that those who continue to teach in this economy are phenomenal people who are not even paid half of their worth. The real problem is that the system works against them. We need to stop trying to hinder the poor LGBTQIA community and put that energy into reworking the broken systems in our government. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. The next comment is no, meaning like, no, everyone is not a little autistic. But majority of people have symptoms of autism. That doesn't make them autistic, as you have to be disabled in everyday life by these symptoms, and they have to be to a certain severity and a certain amount. This is a great point to bring up. Being autistic affects daily life. My editor, who I'll just refer to as Katie from now on since I got permission to use her name, commented a great example on the draft of the script. She says this is like people loosely saying they're OCD. They can be obsessive compulsive, but if it doesn't disrupt the daily function of life, then it's not a disorder. I've said in past episodes that my soul dies a little every time someone says they are a little OCD. That's not how it works. Anyway, back to autism spectrum disorder. Some days are more difficult, and some are high functioning. But it's still playing a game where everyone else has the upper hand, and you don't. This last comment, get ready. Well, I am a licensed autistic. This one made me laugh so hard. I instantly felt so much love for this kindred spirit when I read this one for myself. I might use this instead of just saying I'm diagnosed. Suppose you struggle with autism-like symptoms, but not enough for an official diagnosis. In that case, you are not on the spectrum. Unfortunately, that makes getting help for your own symptoms harder, but not impossible. You have a right to accessibility, regardless of your diagnosis. If you need help, you should get help. That simple. With this, I strongly believe that every student deserves the opportunity to do well in school. Any kid can do their best with lessons, but sometimes that's not enough for our school system. I want to advocate for kids who are deemed slow, lazy, not good at school, etc. If a student is struggling, there is always a reason, even if it's simply that the school curriculum is not structured in a way that helps students thrive. I plan to get certified in every neurodivergency possible, so I can do my best to help every child who needs it. This is where I need your help, dear listeners. I can't become a full-time advocate if I don't have the money to do so. If you liked what you heard today, please consider sharing RAW-tism, subscribing to my Patreon, and spread word to your friends or anyone who may be able to relate to my weekly rambles. I want to help as many people as I can, free of charge. I don't want my services to be unavailable to those who can't afford them. Thank you. Always, I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm not even here to tell you what or how to think. I'm here to share the autistic experience with you from someone who is studying for their graduate certification in autism spectrum disorder, someone who, for the first 22 years of their life, was under the impression that they were allistic, and as somebody who since September 30th, 2022, has finally found their place in the world. I am autistic. I'm a part of the autistic community, and I'm proud of it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Regardless of your thoughts and feelings toward me, I would love for every one of you. You are wanted by many, you are loved by many, and so many want you to stay in this world. I am one of these many and always will be. If you'd like to support this podcast, the description includes links with referral codes to Circles water bottles, Pair Eyewear's customizable glasses, and my favorite Amazon products. The transcript for this episode can be found for free on my Patreon, which is also linked below. Would you like to see more of me? In that case, visit EmKayArchlink.com for links to my other content. A new episode of RAW-tism comes out every Monday wherever you get your podcasts. Next week's episode of RAW-tism is posted on Patreon every Tuesday, ad-free and unedited. Karaoke videos are posted on Patreon every Thursday. Lastly, my book Unseen Powers is available in hardback, paperback, or digitally through Amazon. Remember to drink water, eat some nubbies,